All righty. It is Friday, and here on the East Coast, it is 10 a.m., and we have a sunny day here. What is the weather like in South Carolina, Kristin? Is it sunny there too?
Actually, today, surprisingly, is a little overcast, but still nice, still pretty, but a little humid, a little bit overcast, but I think it's supposed to get sunny later. We've had some rain. We had rain overnight, so.
We're up here in Maryland, and it's getting cooler. Can't say cold. And so with it getting cooler, the humidity is gone, so you can keep it.
Thankfully, I'm pretty fortunate with Myrtle Beach and where we actually sit. We get a constant breeze. So even though other places are very much more it's still humid, but we got a breeze and it makes such a difference. So I'm very fortunate and happy where our house sits.
Sounds perfect.
Yes.
Just getting a few things set up here. We're ready to roll.
Sounds perfect.
Well, that just means we're live on Facebook.
There you go.
Welcome, everybody. Today is a conversation that I've been really looking forward to having. My name is Barbara Bolton Schreiber, and I'm here with Kristin Leazer. I'm the founder of Sisters Rocking Courage, and the whole point of Sisters Rocking Courage is that we bring women together. We encourage each other. We inspire each other. We help each other as we go through this life journey, becoming entrepreneurs. Can we make an impact, a greater impact? Can we spread more hope? Can we, as we're doing that, also create some financial independence for ourselves and our families? And so such a key part of it, and I have goosebumps right now, such a key part of that is what we think. And so
huge.
We're going to dig into it. So Kristin, go ahead and introduce to everybody who you are, and let's dig into this luscious conversation.
Okay, well, as she said, I'm Kristin Leazer, and I've most recently moved to Myrtle Beach, as she mentioned earlier, and that's exciting to me because we were relocated to the center of the country, and I totally missed the ocean. So I'm so excited and have gratitude every day for being able to be on the East Coast and to be so close to the ocean. That lights me up. But I'm a life coach to professional women, and I deal so much with mindset. So I'm so excited that we're talking about this today because, and I love your the courage piece that you talk about, because there you have to have such great courage to challenge your thinking. I think that's something that we just don't ever do. We just go from thing to thing to thing. I know that was my story. And I just, it's like the mind is such a big piece. Our thoughts create everything else in our life, good, bad, and indifferent.
And it's such a cycle and you don't realize it. I put in the post, I lived a little bit more than 50 years thinking I knew everything there was to know about me. I knew how I operated. I knew what was best for me. And so when you talk about our thoughts, so you get into this, so much of it is even subconscious. We just move forward without even really thinking.
90% of our thoughts are automatic. They're subconscious, they're automatic, they're just, and the crazy thing is that, well, not crazy, but the thing that we do as human beings is, our brain is such an amazing machine, and our brain helps us to move and to go and to do, and processes food and helps us do everything we want to do in life. And so we give too much credit, so to speak, to the brain because it is such an amazing machine. Mm-hmm. However, because of that, I think we just automatically think that because it had the thought, it has to be correct. Mm-hmm. And it's we never challenge it. We just go with it, and it becomes fact for us. And then, of course, the more you do it, the more, the confirmation bias, because, oh, see, this has happened before, and this has happened before. Instead of stopping and challenging, wait a minute, where did that thought come from? And do I have to listen to it? Do I have to obey that just because it had that thought? Because we have, what is it? The statistic is approximately 60,000 thoughts a day. And I mean, and some of us who have brains that work a little faster, you could have more. And unfortunately, 85% of them are negative. And so the challenging it every moment, the being curious and challenging it is so critical, because your thoughts create your feelings. which then create the action you take, which then creates the result you get. So it's so much bigger than we realize, and it controls our life.
Yeah, it's fascinating because when you say that our thoughts create our feelings, there's a whole part of it. You say that so many of our thoughts are negative, and I would push back only, and not really push back, that's the wrong way to say. I was very comfortable with my thoughts. So I didn't recognize the negativity piece because when
Yeah.
people looked at me, they always thought, oh, look, she's always happy go lucky. They didn't know what was going on behind the scenes, and I didn't see it as negativity.
Oh, 100%. That's, I mean, most people saw me as I'm a very positive person, just naturally. I'm a positive person. Plus, I choose to look at the positive too. I've always been that way. I think it's just something I've been. And in fact, people have been upset with me, for lack of a better word, like, "Ugh, like you're a Pollyanna, like you don't think of any, you don't, it's like, no, I'm a realist too, but I just choose the positive. So I understand totally what you're saying. Is that, like, wait, no, they're not negative. And it's like, but it's that self-talk. It's the piece that we hide from everyone
Mm.
else. You know,
Oh.
I will say, like, one of the things in even preparing for this talk was I realized that, I have spent so much of my life being a master chameleon. I have adapted to every situation and everything throughout my life, and it's like, and you put on this front of you got it all together. But in the
Yeah.
back, there's this constant running, negativity. You're not good enough. Who are you to say that? Who are, like it's we we do that, and it becomes such a pattern unless we interrupt it and
Bonnie
challenge
is
it.
saying, yeah, Bonnie is saying, challenge our thoughts, stop, ask, where did that thought come from? Question our thoughts. So true.
Oh, so true. But we don't do that. We never question it. And again, I think it goes back to the fact that we believe our brain,
Mhm.
and we believe our memories. That's another thing that was such a big piece, is to realize that, because I was always had such a great memory. I could remember
Mhm.
details and things from the past. Like, that was something, it was a kind of a source of pride. And I know that also comes because my dad has that too. His source of pride for him was that he could remember.
Yeah.
Um, and But when when you think back, that your memories lie to you too, because the memory we have is based on our interpretation of what was happening, or
Yeah.
what we thought was happening, or our own piece of it. Where if you ask like the other 5 people who were with you, they'll have a
Yeah.
different version.
Mhm.
Um, Plus, I was also, you read the studies, and it's like every time you retell a story, every time you retell a memory, you change something, even little
Mhm.
minute something. And so then that is the new version and the new version and the new, so then the memory from when you were 5 is
Mhm.
going to be totally different than really what happened. And so it's like just challenging all of those things. And that's scary. That's very scary. And it takes a lot of courage and bravery to even challenge our thinking.
Well, it does. And so this is gonna like actually segue. Jody is saying, remember, negative thoughts affect us physically. And so
Mm,
you were saying about being a realist. That's how I used to couch my internal thinking. I'm just a realist. I always had a backup plan, or like, what if? And that comes from that trauma piece that we're always trying to protect ourselves. So as realists, we're always looking out for what could go wrong. That whole tiger, like, do I need to fight or flight?
fight or
Right.
flight. Yes. Yeah.
So when we start thinking about what Jody's saying with it affecting our physical, there is a whole chemical reaction internally that when you say thoughts affect your feelings, and then the emotions, and then how this is this great big, basically, yeah, like what do they call it in the South? Jambalaya. There's a jambalaya going on up in
Got
our
that
head.
gumbo. Got
That
a big
gumbo.
pot of gumbo. Yeah.
So yeah, as we are doing this internally, and not speaking what our thoughts are. I call this personal blackmail. When we keep those thoughts to ourselves,
A good one.
it is, isn't it?
I think I'm
Well,
gonna steal that. It's true.
you can. We're blackmailing ourselves, because what is blackmail? Blackmail is fear. I have such goosebumps. This conversation, holy cow. Blackmailing is fear of other people finding something out. And so when we keep our thoughts to ourselves, we're really blackmailing ourselves. And so when we get to that space of wanting more in our life, and we know when we have that. Wanting more in our life. You were a paralegal,
Mhm.
checking the boxes, doing the research, getting it done. Mom of 3, wife, getting it done. And there comes a point where, like, to challenge our thoughts feels like the scariest thing. Step one is to start speaking them, because we're going to talk about how our thoughts relate to our hiding, right?
Mm,
And so
yes.
if we're blackmailing ourselves by keeping quiet, it keeps us in that comfortable space that doesn't feel good, but we can hide for fear of what might happen. So there's like this little, so let's dig into the hiding part, like challenging our thoughts. Why does it take courage? And what is the safety in hiding? I know that's a
Yeah,
tricky
there's
question.
yeah, well, I mean, and it's true. And I think that that's something that keeps us from questioning, is because we become master hiders. We become that, as I was saying, the chameleon. And so we've convinced ourselves that if we challenge it, I might find out something that then I'm going to have to change, which then, how will people perceive me? And it's a vicious cycle that we do. And so we just say, oh no, just not gonna. So we push it down, and every time you push it down, it becomes easier. The next time you do it, you push it down further. The next time you do it, you push it down further. And you just get to the place where you don't even want to deal with it, or it's like, nope, nope, everything's fine. Everything's fine. That old fine.
Hmm.
Everybody's always fine. But I think that hiding piece is, it's habitual, the more you do it. And I don't know about you, but I have always been so good at having conversations with people in my head. Well, if I say this, then they'll say that, and then they'll say this, and they'll say that. And so, not even having that conversation. It's
Yeah.
so crazy. It's so, like when I think back, when you realize what you do, but I mean, I did that so many times. But I will tell you, once you have that, once I pushed past that and got the courage to speak, I was always surprised. People surprise you so many times. It wasn't exactly how I thought. And many times it was the opposite of what I thought. And it was such a positive thing.
Yeah.
But there are some conversations that do go the way you think they're going to go. But even that, there is a better outcome, because then you're not hiding. You don't push that down. That's one more step you come up and go back into challenging all of your thoughts and all of your things. And I think the more that you hide even the simplest thing, then it becomes easier to hide more and hide more. And I think then it just reinforces the um, negative thoughts that you've had about yourself.
Yeah.
It's just another vicious cycle. And it's another way that you just go through life and that you get further along. And then it becomes, well, now people expect me to be this person.
Hmm.
And if I show them I'm not,
Right.
will I lose everyone?
Well, yeah, and as you're starting to talk about that, so the one thing that I want to say is we're talking about changing your thinking from a perspective of what you want in life. So I'm very aware that there are different challenges out there for folks, that this isn't, neither one of us are trained psychologists. So we're not talking about it from like the biochemical perspective of it. And that's very true and very real. This is about where we are when we're unhappy in life, but we're not ready, able, because I was there for many years, ready, able to stand up for ourselves and say, look, I want to change the trajectory of my life, and knowing that we have that we can do it, that things are in alignment, and that the only thing keeping us from what we want in life is what we think. And so as you're saying, Kristen, about as we push things down, I think we paint ourselves in, I'll speak of me. I painted
Yes,
myself
yes.
into a corner, right? So I made a decision and didn't realize that that decision would lead to the next decision, would lead to the next decision. And all of a sudden I wake up one day and, I was a successful professional, and I woke up one day and I was like, how did I get here? This isn't what I thought it was going to look like. This isn't what I thought it was going to, like, I thought once I arrived at this level. And it's funny because I remember, I'm going to tell my age a little bit. I remember when I got my first job and I knew that life was going to be great for me when I had key ring, like a ring of keys, because then I had all those responsibilities that I was so ready for.
Yes.
And when I made, not brought home, when I made $300 a week, I was like, when I get to that level, that's what my thinking led me to. When I get to $300 a week, that's $1,200 a month before taxes. But that was going to be my threshold where life was going to be amazing, right? So we keep making these little decisions, these little thoughts, part of that 60,000, and we do them all internally, mostly by ourselves. And as you're saying, what we perceive others want from us. And so we wake up one day as that niggling comes at us, like, are we really happy? Are we excited to get out of bed in the morning? Do we have the energy to even go take a shower some days, right? So when that happens to us, we still keep pushing through because I thought I didn't have any other choice.
Mhm.
And then I took on the responsibility. I did this to myself. You know, that whole saying, I made my bed, I might as well lay in it and make the best of it, right?
Well, that's what we're taught too. I mean, that's what all the things that we've heard all of our lives, like, so that it makes sense that you would think that, and
So
not
that,
think to challenge that either.
and I speak of my story, but it's not uncommon. Like this
Mm-mm,
is,
mm-mm. So many people. And I think it's because we all have that, we think to the end. Like when we get to, that everybody has that, well, when I get here or this, I'm going to feel a certain way, or I'm going to have achieved a certain thing so that I'm going to have what I want. And then we get
Mhm.
there, to your point, so many people do that. They work so hard, heads down, not thinking about anything. They get to that place and then it's not what they thought it would be. It's not, and it's like, or I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled. Why? Then you start to internally, what's wrong with me? Well, why don't I feel, like it's this vicious cycle that way too. And I think it's because of the thinking again, well, not think, I know it's because of the thought process along the way. Is like, we don't enjoy the journey. We aren't intentional about the next steps that we take. And so we do wake up one day and go, wait, this is what I wanted, but now it's not fulfilling.
Mhm. What's interesting, Bonnie just asked a question. Is there a thought, like, does some of what keep us there, is it the thought of what we could lose? Like, do we end up focusing on what we could lose? Like, if we come out of hiding.
I think that's a big one. I think it's not the only one, but I think it's a huge one. I think so many people, that's what keeps them stuck. There's always what is it? You need to question what am I getting out of this?
Mhm.
My staying stuck, because we only stay stuck because there's something we're getting out of it. And sometimes that what we're getting out of it is safety, comfortability, like
Mhm.
Bonnie saying, not, you don't have to worry about other people. That it's like, this is where I am, this is what they expect of me. And there's a level of that people we're humans, we fear the unknown.
Mhm.
We fear the unknown more than anything, because of all the things, like, and it's our brain's way of keeping us safe. So it's like, what I've learned to do, and try to, get my clients to do, is like, okay, the fear is going to be there. You just kind of have to acknowledge it, name it. Okay, what am I really afraid of? It's like, thank you, brain.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing your job and keeping me
Mhm.
safe.
Mhm.
Um, but I think this is not one that I need to worry about, and I'm going to take the next step. But
Yeah.
that's not easy. It's not easy because we like to be comfortable. We like, okay, this is, even if this isn't great, what I'm not happy with where I am, it's what I know. So
Mhm.
there is a safety, and there is a comfort level to that. It's what I know, because we are afraid of what's on the other side.
Yeah, and so I was gonna ask, like, what was the first step for you? I know for me, I had to really start spending time in what if.
Mm.
What if this isn't true? What if this isn't what my life was supposed to be? What if there's something more? What if there are people out there who can help me get there? What if I started thinking about what I want with clarity every single day? So for me, it was like the what ifs. What was it for you, Kristin? And what do
I
you
think
work with women?
what if is a great place to start. It's a good question, is what if. And I think coupled with that, it sounds like that's kind of what you did too, is sort of like listing out, and even if you didn't do it like physically listing it out, but you know, trying to think through, what is it I really want? And I think it's, what is it what I really want? Is it, how do I want to feel about it? How do I want to, like you can depending on what it is that you want,
Mm-hmm.
list them out, like be very specific about what it is I want. And then the fears that you have about achieving that or pursuing that is then, like you're saying, what if, and switching it, because so many of, well, what if I fail? What if it doesn't work? What if,
Yeah.
people think I'm a lunatic for even trying this? What if, well, how about changing it? Well,
Mm-hmm.
what if you succeed? What
Uh,
if it does come about? Like, and that was one of the biggest things when I was considering and thinking about changing trajectory and taking on becoming a life coach, and working with women like that. Is like, I had these, what I consider like irrational fears now, but they were big fears for me.
yes.
Um, I remember it was like five. Um, they were things like, what if, crazy, no, I need to stop using that word.
Yeah.
It's not a good word, not a good word. It's not, but that's that feeling, that irrationality that comes in. But it was like, what if I succeed and it impacts my marriage? What if I succeed and, um, especially with the social media and all that, and I get attacked online? What if
Right.
it's like, there was five different
Mhm.
things that were just like, it was, what if I can't handle the schedule? What if I succeed and then I can't
Mhm.
handle all the different things that I have to juggle and all the things I have to do? So it was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Here, that fear of success.
Mhm.
Why would you fear success? But we do, we that's a big piece of it. So it was like flipping it. I had to like change it around and making it um a positive, a decision that, like, yes, if I succeed, I will have the tools to handle it. If I
Yes.
succeed, my husband and I will work through whatever it is. And like, it's that piece of being intentional ahead
Mhm.
of time and making plans. Um, and if, yes, you're going, it's one of those, you will be attacked online. But guess what? History shows you figured it out. You'll
Mhm.
figure it out. It's giving yourself that the go back and see where you have succeeded. And especially like, working with professional women, they've already, like, for you'd gotten to the top. You've gotten to where the top for you, the place that
Mhm.
you wanted to be,
Right.
in on the corporate ladder or whatever. You got to that place,
Yeah.
and then it was like, but I'm not happy, I'm not fulfilled, this is not what I wanted. So you can look back in your life and see all the ways that you figured it out, that that you were able to navigate many, many things to get there. So it's like, you have the tools, you have the things to get you where you want to go. And then for those who maybe haven't achieved that, and so they don't know if they can do it, that's where community and the people you surround yourself with, and there are always somebody within your realm, or somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, that you could have a conversation and pick their brain and try to figure, everything is figure outable. Like, I don't
Oh,
know
I love
anybody
that.
who knows. Marie Forleo wrote
Yeah.
a book called Everything is Figure Outable, based on a saying that her mother had taught her as a child. And I believe that to be so true. And I think entrepreneurs and people trying to build businesses and all, they see that, they realize, as every step you take is like, yeah, we can figure it out. And if I can't, there's
Right.
somebody who can, somebody
For
who's done it
sure.
before me.
So it's interesting because one of the things that I will chuckle about now is, for me, when people used to tell me this, I'd be like, that's not true. Um, I was very right and wrong oriented. And
Mhm.
for me, because I always tried harder than the next person, when you talk about that, I rose to the level that I did. It was a dream job. And it took me working over 130 hours in 7 days to really say, wait a minute, I can't work hard enough, fast enough, long enough to fix what the perceived problems, because I had people bringing problems to me from all directions.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you get to that place, there was a part for me that I didn't want to be wrong. And my wrong went the whole way back 25 years for when I started on this path. And so for me, I felt like I was digging in deeper because I was going to make this right. And so that was a really huge part for changing my thinking. Like any of my decisions, I had good reasons for why I made them. Back to your thinking, right?
Right.
Good, bad, right, wrong. And so it's just really interesting that with part of this journey, there's this space of, I call it the grace space, where we just
Yes.
have to be kind to ourselves. We have to, as we stop blackmailing ourselves and start talking to others about what we're thinking, we'll find the people that you were just talking about that we can surround ourselves with that can help us figure things out, that figure outable piece. We will find the people, we will start attracting different people. Some of why we stay where we are is because of the people that we have around us. That doesn't mean there's anything
Yes.
wrong with them at all. It just means that as we're ready to grow, maybe we lead the way for them to be able to grow also. But there's somebody that's already grown a little bit more than us ahead of us. Bonnie was saying here that when she quit drinking, it was the fear of losing a crutch. And she was afraid that what she didn't understand was that it dimmed her light. So we lean on those things for our thinking because there's reasons behind it, right? So
Yeah,
when you're
like we were just discussing, is like,
yeah.
yeah, there's some, on some level, we're getting something out of it.
Mhm. So there's a part for me that it almost happened with the flicking of a light switch, where one day I just almost and I don't know, like I wish I journaled more. We've talked about this
I know, I know.
because I'm like, what was I thinking then? Where there was almost a day where it, and I can go back to November of last year. And again, it was putting myself in a group of other people, other like-minded people, where I just almost within a day released, like the whole past year has just been in releasing, letting go of the things. And so when you're working with your clients, like how is it that, because that's the important part, the quicker we can release, the sooner we can make space for what is supposed to be in our life.
Yes, yes. And so many times I keep using the word interrupt, and that just seems to
I
be
like
such
that.
a great word picture for me, is that that's what we need to do is, and I think with, so many of my clients, is like, it's just getting them to interrupt the flow of life, because life is full.
Mhm.
All of us, no matter what stage of life we're in, it's very full. And getting ourselves to stop for a moment, even, carving out 5 minutes for yourself. And that's where, so many people say, well, I don't have time, I don't have time, I don't have time. And I know that was me, because I truly believed, because of my schedule, I really
Mhm.
did not have time. But when if it was even just getting up 5 minutes earlier, or heading to my bedroom to go to bed 5 minutes earlier, to start stopping the flow of life and just getting some
Intentional.
time to stop the thinking, and or to start thinking about what you wanted, why, asking all those why questions. Why do I feel this way? Where did this come from? Why do I think I have to keep going in this direction? um and the more, it's that proverbial Pandora's box. Once you start down that path, you start asking those questions, then there's more questions and more questions, and some really beautiful answers can come up. But there will also be some challenging, things maybe you didn't want to face. However, facing them gets you to the other side, gets you to the place where you can start intentionally working towards the things you really want.
Mhm. Well, it's interesting when you talk about not having the time, because for me, that when you can release, for me, it meant thinking less. Because I can
Mm.
outthink, like if there was a debate contest, I could outthink. I love my thinking contests. And so one of the things that I've set up for me, I have no less than 10 accountability partners, buddies, and buddy groups that I meet
Mm.
with either every week, every other week, or once a month. to help me. And when you say like, I wouldn't have time for that, it actually makes time for me.
It's that counterintuitive. Yes, you would think not, but it does. It does, because it jump starts your thinking in the direction
It
you need it to go or
does.
want it to go.
Because it keeps me from getting, because when we go down rabbit holes, you and I have talked about this. If I don't hear from somebody for a couple of days, sometimes I'll check in, because oftentimes we'll be in a rabbit hole with our
Mhm.
thoughts that isn't getting us out there active and moving toward what we really want to be creating.
I would say that's almost 100% of the time, is that when people, and I think it goes back to that hiding piece, it's like, well, when you haven't heard from someone, generally that is what's happening, because that's human. That's human.
Mhm.
We do that, and we cycle around. And if you're just with yourself and in your vacuum, that's how it's going to be. I mean, that was something that I have learned, and even in these last few months have realized even more and more, is that you have to reach out, you have to surround yourself, you have to, even sometimes having a 5-minute conversation with
Mhm.
someone else, someone who's either in your same, building in the same way you're building for your business, or someone's in the same state of a season of life that you're in, just it helps you get perspective. And so often just hearing yourself say it to someone else, the aha comes.
Mhm.
But as long as you are in your own space with your own thoughts, our grooves are, the grooves in our brain are very strong, and it's just going to keep going and keep going. I just recently found John Acuff. He teaches, he has written many books, and one of his newest books is called Soundtracks. And I love that idea, because he's using like the grooves in our brain, the limiting beliefs that we have. He's calling them soundtracks and equating it to music. And I don't know, I'm a huge music lover, and I don't know if people out there are, but
Yeah.
that for me did it like, it just helped, because it's like, wait, it's just like the soundtrack of our life that it keeps playing, and it's on repeat and on repeat. And if we don't turn down the dial, or we
Mhm.
don't change the song, it's
Yeah.
just going to keep going. And I think that's what we do when we stay in our own head, in our own mind. So I would definitely challenge people to look for others that they can just even have a 5-minute, conversation with, that just can help change their perspective and change their thinking. I know for me, I started when I had um, my moment where I just and like you with the journaling piece, like I really wish I had done all that, and I would love to. In fact, I need to carve out 5 minutes a day, maybe, to go back and start doing that, to take my
Yeah.
own advice. But it's because of like, just where what was it? But for me, it was sort of a slow. It wasn't just it felt like all at once. But if I'm honest, it's, with myself even, is like it was a slow build. But then the frustration came, where it's like, I got so tired of that not sleeping, the thoughts going around and around. Like I would wake up in the middle of the night, and immediately
Yeah.
either the to-do list or all the pressures that I was feeling about everything under the sun, and the litany. And it was just, I literally had like that creepy crawly feeling you get, like constant, it's almost like that verge of a panic attack
Right.
feeling, if anybody's
Yeah.
had a panic attack.
Yeah.
um and my shoulders were tight. My back was so tight, like I was literally, because I was like living with my shoulders up all the time, like next thing, next thing, next thing. And I just said, enough, I can't, like in my head it was like, it's that stop the merry-go-round, I want to get off. Was that piece for me. And so it was just that going back, it's like, so I would try to think through where how did I get to that place? And then once I got to that place, I started with podcast. I found some people,
Mhm.
and so they became my mentors initially, like just helping me challenge my thinking, and how did I get here? And how do I change? How do I get that to change?
Yeah. And where do you want to go?
Yeah, and that led me to other people, which led me to other groups, which led me eventually to you,
Mhm.
and our, relationship, and then just others in this group, and then other groups, and to your point, is surrounding yourself. And I've even realized recently, like I need to add more of that into my life, because there are days where I do the circle, and it's
Mhm.
like, okay, I got to interrupt that.
Well, it's interesting because I love that whole interruption piece, because sometimes that's all the energy we have, is to just do the interruption. Even if it means, when you talk about like feeling on the verge of panic, I completely can relate to that. And sometimes for me, it was just a matter of changing my environment. I knew, even taking shoes off and walking in the grass to
Mhm.
just feel nature, or when I take a shower to make the water either cold or hot, to just make the change to get me feeling something different in that moment, to give me
Mhm.
the space. And
Mhm.
so it's really interesting when we talk about that interrupt, like that's a gift that we can give to ourselves. An interrupt can even be like making a box of brownies, or I'm sorry for all the nutritionists out there. It's a comfort food and it gets your hands busy. So it can even be making a box of brownies, or just doing something different that you don't do. Driving to work a different way. I went through a spell where I was parking in different parking lots and different parking spots, only because like you just become such a habit of routine. And I knew that I needed to change my life up. I didn't know how.
Mhm.
And so I just started doing some things.
Started with that. Yeah.
When
Start with that.
you start parking in different spaces, you meet different people. And then instead of looking down on the ground when you're walking someplace, you start looking out. And then you start talking to people that you never met before. So there are these things that you can do. I kind of want to go through like a checklist at the end of like one, two, three. But until we get there, um, I guess, Kristen, you've pretty much said it, but like, is there a way to really, how did your life change when you changed your thinking? Because, we've been talking about what it felt like before, and how did it change for you now? Like, how would you say life is different for you now?
It's in many ways, it's almost night and day different. Um, and I can't necessarily say as much externally as internally, which then becomes externally. For me, the change in doing that shifting then to the thinking, it was a calmness. I had such a
Yeah.
um so that, it's that overwhelm feeling, like 24/7. It was just this internally, I just felt like everything was shaking inside.
Mhm.
And so the level of calm is incredible.
Yeah.
It really is incredible. And that's even now when I think back and I look through, like, this past year has been a whirlwind for me with moving, and our daughters moving, and just external family members and issues and problems, and but none of it's been a big deal, quote unquote. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
there's times where the energy level and the, like, ooh, go into the next thing, but this inner calmness that I feel is such a gift. And
Mhm.
it's like I would not trade that for anything. So one of the biggest differences for me was that is the calmness, and knowing that I can stop, I can interrupt and challenge. Okay, well, when I start to feel overwhelmed, when I first start to feel stuck, when I first start to feel angry, it's like, wait, what's going on? Is like stopping yourself
Mhm.
and figuring it out and naming it. Name, like, what am I feeling? And then why am I feeling that? And how can I make it better? How can I change that in this moment?
Mhm.
You know?
Yeah, I would say it's very similar for me too. It's almost this level of confidence now, because
Hmm.
because of our changing our thinking, it has put us in arenas that we had never tackled before. Even just doing these live videos,
Yes, yes,
like
such
that's
yeah.
oh, but when we focus on, here's the changing the thought, when we focus on knowing that whatever we're saying, the message that we're relaying is meant for somebody. There is somebody watching today that really needed to hear a piece or a part or a whole of what we're talking about. And so that's the part where we change our thinking. I get goosebumps again. When we
Mhm.
change our thinking, that we now are able to put ourselves out there to really be there for others. And so there's this level of confidence as we tackle this. You're like, oh, I wonder what else I can do that
What else I can do?
I
Well,
didn't think
that's
I
what,
could
as you were
do.
speaking, yeah, as you were speaking, the word, like, which I don't like to use the word that much because I think it's overused, but it is empowering. There's an empowering piece to managing your mind, and the excitement that knowing that you can, like, we are not
Mhm.
victims of our thoughts. That is empowering and freeing and exciting, that we don't have to just, well, this is how it is.
Mhm.
No, you have the power, you have the control. And for me, I use the word permission, because I was very much a, black and white thinking in the sense of it's good, bad, and it's like, no, you have the permission to challenge that thought. You have the permission to change and do whatever you want to do. It's your life and you only get one. You only get this one. So make the most of it.
Right. Well, and it's interesting because I'll tell people, like, I tried it that way. Like, I
Yeah.
tried it where I
Yeah.
knew all the answers, and
Yeah.
that didn't work so good. Like, look where
Yeah.
it got me. And so now this life is always a question. Every day, like, what if for how is my life different? Every day I wake up, I don't know who I'm going to meet that day anymore. I don't know who I'm going to talk to, who I'm going to connect with, and just really, we're getting ready to do clubhouse rooms, and I just made a fantastic connection, Christina in Canada. Like, this is crazy. Last week I met Leslie in the UK. Like the things that are possible, and I don't talk about this from a place of um, like, if you work hard enough. It has nothing to do with working hard anymore. My life before was working harder. If you wanted something if you wanted to accomplish something, it was about working harder. And now that we're part of this group of women, that we all encourage the best in each other,
Yes.
we know automatically if we're having a rough day, we can reach out to any one of us and it's going to change in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There are many, many times when I'm feeling my lowest, and there's been times where I'm like, no, I don't want to talk to anybody. Just,
Hmm.
but you push through it and you do it.
Hmm.
And when I do, there's always, I'm so glad I did, so glad I reached out, or so glad I kept that meeting with Barbara, or with, just
Oh,
whoever
sure.
that because it pushes you to better things. Like we're better together. That's like that group that I'm working on
Hmm.
creating is better together, because of that concept is that we are all better together.
Hmm.
We lift each other up, we pull each other along, we push each other up.
Hmm.
It's all of those wonderful, wonderful things that come when women get together and encourage one another
Hmm.
to greatness.
Well, and we have our small group of, there's 6 of us. And I
Yes.
just want to, like, pour a little love on us, because we do know, and anytime we have a question, and when we start stepping outside of what we aren't familiar with, we just go to that group. So when Bonnie's on the call, there's Bonnie, Jody, Cara Marie, Elka from Germany, Kristin, Allie is in Massachusetts, Bonnie's in Canada, and me here in Maryland and Pennsylvania. We're such a core group. We call ourselves Soulful Sisters because it's just an instant. It was because you joined the group a couple of months ago.
Just, yeah, I'm the newbie,
You
but I
are the
will tell
newbie.
you, yeah, it's just knowing that, like in fact, I have a note card here that I got some, like, okay, today what I want to do is develop some questions, and I want to throw them out into the group and say, well, what does this say to you? What do you think? And just knowing that you have that group that you can do that with is wonderful, and it does um pushes you further and faster.
Yeah.
If you have others in your corner. So many of us want to, or think it has to be hard. We think, this was me. I thought I have to build this all on my own. I have to do this myself. It's like, because my thinking was, if anything is good or worth doing, it has to be hard.
Oh, that's a nugget right there.
It's huge. It's like what if it was fun?
Oh my
What if
goodness.
it was easy? What if it was fun? Put that in your soundtrack. Make that a new belief. What if it was? And guess what? It really is. And especially if you have others that you can draw from, it really is. It's not as hard as we make it to be. But that was definitely something I did to myself. I have done to myself.
Bonnie was just talking about affirmations, and yeah,
Hmm.
Leslie's going, me too. I know, right? She's talking about affirmations, and what we don't realize is that we have mantras, and Cara Marie talks about mantras. We have mantras and affirmations that we didn't even realize. And one of the ones that was a strong belief for me when you just said about it being hard is anything worth doing never came easy.
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
that's just
You
not
got to put in 130 hours a week to make it happen.
right.
No, you don't.
I just want to
Yeah.
sit with that for a minute because there, and this is where what bubbles up as we start to have these conversations. We don't realize that we have these core beliefs.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so as we have these conversations, we can start to expose those. That's that whole blackmail thing. Let's
Yes.
expose them and come up with a new way of thinking and releasing it quickly. Like, wait a minute, does it have to be hard? Is there an easier way? What if, go back to those what ifs, what if there was an easier way to do this? Who might know an easier way to do this?
Right. 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 And we're not competition for each other. I think that's that piece that, you talk about from, dating yourself and from years ago. But I think that was one of the pieces that, in corporate America and even just jobs in general, the fear was you can't let anybody else know what you're doing because they'll steal your idea. Or you can't let anybody, like, well, if I
Right?
ask that question, then they'll think I don't know what I'm talking about in other ways. And it's like, no. And I think I'm so glad like that those walls are being broken down. And I think
Yeah.
it's so good. And it's like, and that's to your point, is that that's what we're realizing within this group and then other groups and then of course on Clubhouse and everybody helping each other out. And
Oh, yeah.
it's so important to realize there is a whole big world out there and there is enough people for everyone. And
Mhm.
there is someone who knows the answer. Don't be afraid to ask. It doesn't make you look like you don't have it together. It doesn't make you look like you don't know what you're doing in other
Right.
ways. It's just this piece. I don't know this piece.
It's just a piece.
And guess
And
what? There's something that person who's going to give you that information, there's a
yeah,
piece that they need from you.
yeah, yeah. And it's amazing how quickly that happens now. I just looked at the time and it
Oh,
flew.
oh my
Holy
goodness.
moly. So
I could keep talking with you.
I know this is just so amazing. So we're going to go through a couple of quick tips at the end right now, and then just give you some other ways that you can stay involved and continue the conversation. So I don't know, Kristen, I'm going to pop through what I got out of this, what my
Okay.
nuggets are, is change your questions. When you're changing your thinking, start with asking different questions. What if I could? Or who can help me? So who can, what ifs? So that's the first one. And then I saw the second one as picture where you want to go. It doesn't have to be a clear picture. It doesn't have to be a perfect picture. Just what is that next? What does the next picture look like for you? Like, what if I could, and then have a visual for that. And then the third one is that you were talking so much about is reach out to others as you start saying, who else could help? Really do reach out. We're in a different world. We have so many ways that you can connect with other women,
Yeah.
other people
Mm-hmm.
now. And
Mm-hmm.
we're all in, especially when you get into the Clubhouse world, we're all eager, willing, and very willing to add value, to share what worked for us for absolutely free. So don't be afraid. And if you are, so that's that whole reach out, is don't blackmail yourself anymore. I did it for more than half a century because I was doing what that whole, when you talk about us, our brains being a machine, it's just doing what it thinks how it thinks it's operating at its greatest capacity.
Yeah.
So we're going to continue this on Clubhouse. Be sure to join Sisters Rocking Courage on Facebook. If you're not following us, do follow us, because that's where you'll hear this conversation. Kristen, what do you have? Like, what parting tips, thoughts, challenges, encouragement do
Yeah,
you
I think your list was great, a great synopsis, and think great place for people to start. I just think that the only thing I would add to it is just being that intentional.
have?
Make yourself stop, take some time um, to really like find a quiet space, find a place where you can think and be intentional about what you want, what the questions you're saying to yourself. So it's like all the things you said, but just really focus on, make yourself focus on those. And then the other thing is I always think of is that get a good night's sleep. So many
Mm,
of us, we think we have to go right up into the edge and then we drop into bed and we're exhausted, but we can't really sleep. I don't know how many times I've fallen asleep and then a couple hours later I'm awake and my brain is just going, it's like we need to start the night before to be able to be our best selves for the rest of the day. So That would be the only other challenge.
Well, and I would say, write things down. I have these sticky notes and I have a wall from.
Everything okay?
Yeah, it's just my screen went black. I have a wall from where early on
Mm-hmm.
where my notes changed, and that's one of the things that's really helpful is to just see that where we've grown from.
Yes, yes.
So speaking of technology, we just had a little bit of a technology thing going on, but that's okay.
It's all part of it. It's all part of it.
So next week we're going to be talking with Suzanne, and we're going to be talking about finding the courage to live well. So Kristin, I just want to say thank you. And
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. This has been just such a lively conversation, and I'm jazzed. Do join us on Sisters Rocking Courage, do follow us on the Facebook page so you can learn more about finding us on Clubhouse too. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Wishing you all the courage you need for the week coming. Take care.